guys. Welcome to the Roaming Homer podcast. My name is Caleb. That's Francisco, and welcome to another edition of the podcast. Hey, the NFL draft is behind us. The season is ahead of us, and we've got some stuff that we're going to be talking about. If you didn't get a chance to check out our live feed that we did for the draft as it happened, go check it out on our YouTube channel. But for tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about some draft recap. We're going to be talking about some expectations of some of these rookies because we know they got to have some expectations on them. Then we're going to finish this night off with talking about our teams, our expectations, and the guys that we drafted. So without further ado, let's roll the intro. What's up, Francisco? Draft is behind us, man. What's going on?
Listen, man, wow. Just some of the things that went down in the draft amazed me. You would think some of these teams were smarter than they were. A lot of reaches, honestly. Some unexpected trades that made super teams even better, which baffles my mind. But it was exciting, man. It's good. I think there was a lot of good movement. Some pieces were gotten that need to get. So, exciting weekend.
Yeah, it was. And you and I got a chance to just be live and do our first live episode watching the first round of the draft. We were on for like 2.5, 3 hours. It was a pretty amazing time. So like I said in the intro, guys, if you haven't had a chance to check that out, go to our YouTube channel. It'll be up here shortly. But with all of the stuff that we're happening, we all knew Caleb Williams was going number one. That would have been a shock if something would have happened, if, that would have been one of those things that he didn't go. But at the end of the day, he did go number one. Everybody expected it. And then I think the biggest shock of the whole entire draft was 14 offensive players taken in the first 14 picks, 6 quarterbacks in 12 picks. Talk to me about what your thoughts on that, man.
Listen, this draft wasn't really deep for quarterbacks. So all the best available quarterbacks that they needed to come off the board. You were not going to get one of these guys dropping all the way down to the end of the draft. It just wasn't going to happen because this is not a deep draft for quarterbacks. So my thing was some of them a surprise? Yes. Obviously, we already know Penix Jr. going to Atlanta was the biggest shock for me, and I think it was the biggest shock for everybody else. I understand why they did it, though, because to me, you're preparing your franchise for the next 10 years. Because you don't know Kirk Cousins' physicality. He had an Achilles injury. He's coming back off of that. You don't know how he's going to be. You don't know how effective he's going to be. They have to cover their bases. It doesn't matter if they're paying this man $180 million or not. You have to have a backup. And what better way to have a backup than a kid who's, to me, is NFL ready. He's older. He's got the intangibles. He carried a team on his back. I think the kid is worth the pick. Whether he likes Cousins likes it or not, it doesn't matter. They did the same thing to RG3 in Washington when they took Cousins in the draft. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, we all knew that quarterbacks were going to go pretty high because there was a huge need for a lot of teams that needed a quarterback. We did the quarterback shuffle. We had people getting hurt. We had teams that were super needy in the quarterback. And yeah, I'm going to give you that, where we were pretty deep this year in the draft. I think there's some reaches. I'm going to tell you that I have a couple that I think they're going to be busts. It is what it is. They may go and surprise me. And no, I'm not trying to be mean to all the Michigan fans out there, but I just don't think JJ McCarthy is going to be that guy. I'm not hating on him. I do hate the team, but I just don't think that he's going to be that guy. I really don't. And I think I understand what you're talking about with Michael Penix, but man, you paid the Bionic Man hundreds of millions of dollars to go draft a quarterback at number 8. At number 8. I honestly think that they could have gotten him lower. I really do.
No, yeah, I don't think so.
I don't see anybody. I didn't see anybody coming up and taking him, bro. Like, I really didn't. Because I think he was one of the very last picks to be taken at quarterback other than, what was it, Sam Hartman that got picked in like the 3rd round. But
The kid from South Carolina too. His stock dropped a lot. He was supposed to be projected to go a lot higher, but he didn't.
yeah,
So listen, I get what you're saying, 100%, but I don't think Penix would have been there. I just don't. I think it was necessity for them to pick him up. There's no way you're going to get him. Where are you going to get him at? Because I'm telling you, there would have been a team that seen him there and would have got him, and then Atlanta would have been. They would have been out.
I mean, he was linked to, and this is all the rumors with the Dolphins and all the Tua haters out there. They're like, go after Penix at 21 and trade Tua off and all of this and that and go through another rebuilding year, because it seems like that's what we're in perpetual rebuilding year, because we give our guy 2 or 3 years, and if he doesn't make it, then whatever. But that's the nature of the NFL. It's not for long, and the first person to go is going to be your quarterback. Second person is going to go is your head coach. And
Offensive coordinator is the first one to go.
Offensive I'm going to disagree with you. Maybe, but they may stick with your quarterback for a minute, but give him another guy. But you hurt your quarterback by going multiple OCs, because they bring in a new scheme, they're not building it around it, and all of a sudden they're hurt. But obviously the biggest shock is Penix going to the Falcons at number 8. There is no other question. I think the jury is out at a number 1 draft pick. There always is that jury out for these number 1 draft picks, especially quarterback number 1 draft picks. Some of these guys that have gone that were D linemen, O linemen, very few have gone number 1. Very few running backs anymore go number 1. But when you're talking about a wide receiver, when you're talking about a quarterback, especially quarterbacks, man, the proving grounds for a quarterback, because who picks up a number 1 draft pick at a quarterback? A really sucky team that has probably more holes than Swiss cheese. So there's more issues with a team than just the quarterback.
Yeah, that's not true though, because the Bears really weren't that bad. The kid was actually starting to come around, and they got rid of him right before the kid started to actually do what he needed to start doing. He was building momentum. Even his teammates said he was a great teammate. He was a good quarterback. They just couldn't be patient. So all they did was shuffle one kid for another one that's going to struggle the same way that the last kid did. So that's not necessarily true, because the team wasn't all that bad. It wasn't a disaster the way they make it out to be. But I think they put Caleb Williams in a bad position, because now he's going into a locker room where people are going to be like, because you had Justin Fields, and now you have another rookie you have to contend with. He's going to go through the growing pains, you know what I mean, of trying to prove himself and trying to come out. He's probably going to be the one out of the 6 that is going to start right away.
110%, because they don't have anybody to start. So they went out and picked that wide receiver, Dunze, however you pronounce his name, which, I mean, they gave him another weapon. I think the weapons in Chicago are there. I think they have the capabilities of being there. I think when you've had 2 or 3 head coaches in 2 to 3 years, that makes it rough. Matt Nagy did nothing for Justin Fields. He actually ruined him. And then your front office is just horrendous. So until some of that stuff gets changed, it's basically repeating. But the other guy that I think is going to make, there's 2 guys that I think are going to make a huge impact on teams, is Brock Bowers. Both of them are tight ends. Brock Bowers and Cade Stover. Both of those guys are, I think, game-changing tight ends. And as we've seen this league go with Kittles, Kelsey, and all of these guys that are top tight ends, they're all living in the Gronkowski shadow, and they're trying to make tight ends sexy again. These 2 kids are going to come up, and I think that they're going to make a phenomenal impact on their teams. What do you think?
Brock Bowers, a lot of people are mad. I mean, a lot of the talking heads are mad because they felt the Raiders should have went defense instead of offense. And I thought that's the way they were going to go because of the coach they had. And I was dead
Mhm.
wrong. But I understand
Mhm.
why they got him. I mean, you need a weapon. You have to have a weapon. Tight ends, like you said, seem to be making a comeback. It's one of those positions where, I mean, look at Kelsey, bro. The guy's a monster. You
Mhm.
can get him the ball anywhere on the field. He's going to get it for you. And it just seemed, but Kelsey's technically he's a tight end, but he's a receiver. Let's
He's
I
not
mean,
a
let's keep
big
it
guy.
real.
Like
He's a
he's not the
hybrid.
yeah, he's a hybrid. He's a Darren Waller-esque type of guy, but just a much better Darren Waller. But
So
listen,
it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
I told you in an earlier episode, we talked about our hot takes, right? We talked about who's going to win, what division, who's going to go somewhere. And I want to ask if you remember my hot take coming out of the AFC. Who's my hot take coming out of the AFC?
Didn't you? Wasn't it the Raiders?
No,
Or
it
was
was
it
Houston,
Indy?
Texas.
Oh,
Houston
man.
Texans. Okay. Houston Texans. Now they signed Stephon Diggs. And they picked up my boy, Cade Stover from The Ohio State University as their tight end. Bro, they are loaded.
Doesn't mean anything.
Loaded. And they already have a proven quarterback that can make things happen. I'm telling you right now, if I wasn't a Fins fan, I'd be a Houston Texans fan right now. I am chewing on that bandwagon all
Listen,
day long.
you're giving them way too much credit for last season. I'm going to tell you that right now.
You're tripping.
You're too much. Let me explain something to you. Jacksonville had that division by a mile. They were 8-3 before Lawrence got hurt. Let me tell you something. If that man wouldn't have got hurt, I guarantee they'd continue to do what they did and run away with that division. Okay, let's call a spade a spade. It is what it is. Listen, Houston made their run. They beat the Browns in the first round. This kid showed how dynamic he is. He's accurate. He's big. He's fast. He can throw. But let's not act like they ran away that division. They barely made it into the playoffs. And the only reason they barely made it into the playoffs is because Jacksonville choked away the last umpteen games. They were 8-3 before Lawrence got hurt. So come on. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on the excitement here, because that gravy train that Houston was on last season is not going to happen again this season. They're going to have the book on this kid. And I've told you already, there's going to be some regression. I'm not saying there's going to be a lot, but there's going to be some regression, because now he has to learn how to throw the digs. Okay? He has to learn how to throw them. He has to know what spots he's going to be in. With Stover, I don't think that's going to be much of a problem because they were at Ohio State together. So that connection is going to be an easy one. But with Diggs, it's going to be different. You know how much of a prima donna he is. He's going to want the ball. And if he's not getting the ball, he's going to cause problems in the locker room like he did in Buffalo. So let's pump the brakes a little bit, because it's not going to be a drama-free season for Houston next year.
You good. You good there. Because I'm still taking them. I'm still riding that bandwagon, because I'm telling you what, if I say it to this day, because I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm on the CJ Stroud bandwagon. And I'm a fan of Justin Fields. I'm a fan. I believe we as in Ohio State University, has not produced a decent quarterback in years. They've always been the athletic hybrid guys that are scary of the dual threat, but they haven't been that pure quarterback. And you got one in CJ Stroud. You got a pure quarterback in CJ Stroud that can run, that can use his legs. He's a dual threat, but he is a dynamic quarterback. And I'm telling you right now, rookie of the year, he's not going to repeat because he's not going to be a rookie. But at the same time, he's going to do his thing. And with the weapons, with Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, man, I'm telling you, those boys are on track. I'm scared to play them as a Dolphins fan, because I think they're clicking. You get a second year in there, those boys are going to click. And you're right. Cade Stover and CJ Stroud know how to play together. So, I think we got some good stuff there. I think we've got it. I don't know. But that's my hot take, and I'm still sticking with it going from there. So, well, let's jump into our second part of the show, and that's called. We're going to talk a little bit about expectations for some of these rookies. We kind of hit on it a little bit in the first segment, but let's focus in on a couple of these rookies. So tell me a couple rookies you want to look at and what some expectations for them that you're seeing for this year.
Well, I can tell you number one is going to be Caleb Williams. He's going to have to produce just like Stroud. That the expectation is he's supposed to come out like gangbusters and do what CJ Stroud did in Houston. It's just not going to happen. Not going to happen. They play in two totally different systems. One plays indoors, one plays outdoors. It's I'm telling you, it is going to be, oh my God, this kid is going to have a ton of bricks on him, and he's not going to be able to come out and play carefree. You saw what happened in USC. The kid was crying after games when he lost. What do you think the Chicago media is going to do to this kid? Second to New York, Chicago media is going to eat this kid alive.
You Ask him to paint his nails. Is he going to paint his nails in between each game? And just say, Bears Nation, whatever it is?
It's going to be crazy to me. His expectations are going to be through the roof. Now, the second person that's going to be, the expectations are going to be crazy. I'm going to tell you who it is. It's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. because they're going to expect this kid to come out and be the man. They're going to expect him to come out and catch every ball thrown to him, which he can. He has the ability to do it, but you got to remember who's throwing to him, Kyler Murray. The kid is injury prone. He may not stay on the field all season long, so that may create issues for him. But his expectation is to get plugged in as the number one and start from day one. There's no him sitting at all. He's going to be your number one guy coming into the season. To me, those are the two biggest number ones that I can think of. And then the other guy, we just talked about him earlier, who's going to have heavy, heavy expectations on him, but he may be able to sit, but he may not be able to sit, is JJ McCarthy. This kid he's getting thrown into a situation where they picked him high. They picked him high enough where the only advantages he has, he plays indoors. Okay. I give him, he's in Minnesota, he's indoors. He, it may be a lot easier for him. He wasn't asked to do a lot in Michigan. He's going to be asked to do a lot in Minnesota.
But he's got J. Jeff, man. He's got Jets, man. Come on. So I think he's going to be a bust, but the only saving grace that he's going to have with him is Justin Jefferson. So the jury's going to be out on him, and I'll eat crow if he comes out to be better than what I expect him to be. But I think he's going to find himself struggling from his saving grace is coming from a Harbaugh system, which is more of a pro system, kind of like what Urban Meyer's system was, Brian Day's, some of those guys that play pro systems, getting these guys ready. So, yeah. So I'm going to pick a couple of different guys to talk a little bit about some expectations. And I think that's Jaden Daniels that went number 2 overall to the Commanders. Okay. I think they've got Dotson out there from Penn State, pretty solid guy. McLaurin from Ohio State, he was a stud, and it didn't matter who was throwing to him. He was a stud. So they've got Brian Robinson, I think, is still there as their running back. So they've got some tools and weapons there. I think there's a lot more holes to be filled. Here's my only question about Jaden Daniels. Here's my question. Is he RG3?
He better not be.
The dude is small. Okay? The dude is small. He's not a big guy. They're going to have to put some weight on him. I don't know his stats right off the top, but I'm going to tell you this. I think they're going to have to put some weight on him. He's going to have to not be that run first, pass second guy. He's going to have to be able to be in the pocket and do his thing and not expose himself like some of these athletes that want to show off their wheels and run. You've got to give these guys something to be threatened by when the pocket collapses, not a run first style, which I go to what Cam Newton did. Cam Newton was run first. They had him run first, pass second with all of those read options. And he was a truck, but quarterbacks are meant to be in the pocket. And if you got legs, then you've got to be able to play contain, spy the quarterback, make sure you keep him in the pocket, and get enough time for your lineman to come in and make a play. So we'll see. The jury's out on him. There's going to be some expectations on him, I think, to come out and perform. And I'm going to agree with you with Marvin Harrison. That's my boy. That dude is a freak of nature. He is his daddy times 2. Uh, He's lanky. He's got a catch radius that I have never seen. He reminds me of a Megatron in an S. Like his catch radiuses, all of the freakish things that he can do. I don't think he's as big as stout as a Megatron, but I think he can catch. He can run every route and catch every ball. So he's going to make Kyler Murray look good, because if he can make Kyle McCord in Ohio State look good, he can make a pro level quarterback like Kyle Murray look good, as long as it's not the only option, because Ohio State had multiple options. So we'll see what happens. I hope they put him in a right situation when it comes to getting out there and doing his thing. I don't know. I could see Rookie of the Year. I think that's some of the expectations on Marvin Harrison. Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, or Offensive Rookie of the Year, maybe. I think we got some potential there, as long as Kyler Murray can stay healthy, because I don't know what their backup plan is.
I don't think Daniels has that much pressure on him at all in Washington. There's no expectations for that kid in Washington for the first year. Washington's a train wreck, an absolute train wreck. There's no way they're going to put expectations on this kid to turn everything around the first year. Not in the division they play in. Sorry. That's not going to happen. They play
that division got real good real fast.
Not in the division they play in. It's just it's not reality. Everybody can say the NFC East or whatever they want to call it, but come on.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Listen, we could have said that 2-3 years ago, but I mean, the Eagles, their draft pick, their defense just got sick with their draft picks. Dallas is always and always will be a train wreck.
They're a playoff team, though. Yeah.
By the way, did you see Zeke re-signed?
Yeah, which that's to me, that smells of desperation by Dallas. It smells like desperation because their guy left.
But they picked up a running back in the draft, so we'll see what happens with that. I don't know. Zeke is not a feature back anymore. He's just got too much wear on him. But I don't know. The NFC East is a pretty dominant force right now in the NFC. It's probably going to be the toughest one to get through. So, we'll see what happens. So, all right. Any last words on some of these expectations for these guys?
No, it is what it is. It's the same as every year. You're going to have people that expect more from a rookie than anything else. Then you're going to have people downplaying when they don't live up to those expectations. It never changed. It's just a different year, same stuff, man.
Yeah. Well, let's turn the corner here into our third segment of the night, and let's talk a little bit about some team grades. And we'll start out a little bit with our teams, and then we can talk a little bit about some of the other teams that are out there, maybe some of the in our divisions. But I'll let you start us off with the Giants. What's your team grade? What are you seeing some like Pro Football talking about all of that? What did you give your team as a grade, and why?
To me, it was a solid B+. It was a solid. They had 4 needs. The biggest one they didn't meet, which was quarterback, but I'm happy they didn't do that in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm happy about is they got their star receiver in Neighbors. Okay, they picked up their running back. Okay, this kid from Purdue who is a diamond in the rough from what everybody's saying. They're saying it might be one of the biggest steals of the draft, Tyrone Tracy. Then they picked up 2 DBs to take over for Xavier McKinney, who left.
Mm-hmm.
So they needed to replace that DB, and the kid they picked up, Tyler Nubin, is considered one of the best DBs in the country. So they filled some gaps, and then they picked up Theo Johnson, their tight end, because we don't know what's going on with Darren Waller. He's going through a divorce right now. His headspace is not where it needs to be. He's thinking about retiring. Mm-hmm. They stacked up. The only thing I would say that took that the negative about this draft was they didn't get a quarterback, which I'm not worried about that till next year. You have Daniel Jones for one more year under contract because they can opt out of paying him the rest of his money after this year coming up. To me, it was a solid draft. I can't ask for anything more than what they did. They filled a lot of holes that they needed to fill.
Yeah. Man, I go back to our live show and the breath that you were holding as they were getting ready to draft, and you were in the sigh of relief when Neighbors came off the board for you guys. I just kind of went back to that moment. I just thought to myself, that was classic. So that was classic. So, but all right. So Finns, I'm going to give him a solid B. Not a B plus, not a B minus, just a solid B, because we live in the perpetual state of mediocrity. Pick number 1, we picked Chop Robinson. And I said it on the live show. I'm not mad at the draft pick. I'm not mad. At 21. We could have looked at O-line. I don't know what was there, but our biggest holes are on the offensive side of the ball when it comes to the O-line. So we picked up an edge guy. We've got a couple of missing pieces from our edge when we talk about some of our linebackers that are gone. Van Ginkel left. We've got some, Jalen Phillips is hurt. Hopefully coming back first week, second week. Bradley Chubb. We're missing Wilkins. He's gone. So this fills that line hole that in some depth. So like I said, I'm not mad at it. I mean, it's 254 pounds, 6'2", from Penn State. Penn State does produce some pretty good defensive linemen. So I'm not mad at the draft pick. I just probably think it could have been a little bit different at that point. Then we go and we pick an offensive tackle at round 2 for Patrick Paul. 331 pounds, 6'7". This dude's a tank. I think he is going to be a decent gap filler. I hope he turns out to be a good O-lineman for the NFL, because a lot of times you can see these guys and they're awesome when it comes to college. And then all of a sudden they just don't know how to handle some of these big boys when it comes to the NFL. They just can't handle these guys. So, and then round 4 and 5 just kind of disappointed me. It really did. Why are we picking up a running back? Why? Maybe to supplement Mostert. Maybe because Mostert's getting old. Again, we just picking up nothing but track kids. I'm trying to see if he ran. They don't have his stats here, but yeah. So I believe he's a 4.4 guy. And so we picked up another track athlete. And I mean, our running back room is stacked. Devon Achane is a stud. Mostert was a stud last year. I don't know if he can reproduce that. There's been a lot of, you talk about those running backs with a lot of wear and tear on their bodies. We'll see what that happens. Round 5, we pick up another edge guy. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at that. All right. Y'all know that we don't need another wide receiver. We picked up Malik Washington from Virginia and Taj Washington from USC in rounds 6 and 7. So maybe they're a diamond in the rough. Maybe they're a Devon Achane that we didn't expect to be what they are, and they come up. We know that Tyreek Hill is probably not going to extend his contract after it expires. We don't know what's happening with Waddle when he comes up for it. We've got him on a tag this year. Who knows? We picked up his 5th-year option. Maybe we have to let him go because of price. Who knows? So I can see that later in the rounds. We're okay with that. So for me, a solid B. A solid B. We picked up a few pieces that we need, but we only picked up one O-lineman. And we need O-lineman. We could have picked up a center. We could have picked up somebody that would have really given us that. So that's my take on the Dolphins. So let me ask you this, Francisco. Give me your team that had the best draft. Who got an A+ in your mind?
I'm biased. I can't really tell you that. You know what? No, I can't sit here and tell you who got an A+ because I really don't care. I really don't care what other teams are doing as far as draft goes. As far as the teams that I root for, which obviously is the New York Giants, I think the Browns had a really good draft without having a first-round pick. I mean, I think they got some solid pickups in the draft this year, but I don't think anybody got an A+. And if they tell you otherwise, they're crazy. You know what I mean? Not even the Bears. Everybody got the Bears with an A draft. I don't think so. I don't think so because
Yeah, I
it's
don't think it's an A draft. I'd give
that's what
them
they're
an A
saying.
minus. I give them an A minus because they, they paired a new quarterback with a pretty good wide receiver. So I'll give them an A minus in filling the holes that they need. But the jury's out. I mean, you could give somebody an A minus, and then they go out there and crap the bed. So we'll see what happens for that. But so you don't have anybody out there that has like, if you were to say the best draft, you're gonna plead the fifth on that one. Okay.
I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't care. I mean, there was some surprises in there, like Kansas City getting another wide receiver to add to that team, but they're going to replace. They're going to replace what's his face, the kid from Florida that the Giants traded. I don't even remember his name. He's
Mhm.
they're gonna get rid of him and replace him with him. So it's one of those things where the good teams just kept getting better. And I knew this was going to happen with the way the draft was falling. You knew all the bottom teams were going to get all the diamonds that were left over from the
Yep.
top of the draft. So this draft was really, really weird. It fell into place for all these mega teams to get better without even having to try, which is, it's something in itself. But no, I don't think any team got an A.
So I think overall, I mean, you just hit on it. So let's talk about that just for a second before we jump into our last segment. Kansas City picks up a Xavier Worthy, the track star of the entire draft. Now, again, speed isn't everything. Hopefully he can catch. Hopefully he doesn't have hands like bricks when Patrick Mahomes is trying to throw to him like Tooney does. But, I think the Bills pass that up when they got rid of Diggs and they could have had Xavier Worthy. That is, to me, what are the Bills doing right now? Like, what are they doing?
They're in cap hell. That it comes down the money. It comes down the numbers. They're in cap hell right now. Remember, the first round draft picks are slated already. This is exactly why they put the cap in place for this stuff for a reason. So these first round picks wouldn't go crazy demanding what they're demanding. They're slotted. They're all slotted. But the way the Bills are right now, structured with their cap, man, they can't do much. So it was smart of them to go back. I'm surprised they did it for Kansas City. They should have got more from Kansas City than they did, but they slotted back, and I get what they did out of the first round. Second round, slotted completely different than the first round. They're doing it. They still got a solid wide receiver. They still did. They got a solid wide receiver. Problem is they let Kansas City jump in front of them, and they should have milked them for a little bit more. This is a team you've lost to, I think, what, three out of the last 4 years or 2 of the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And they just keep getting beat. And now you just made them better, which is going to come back to haunt you if you guys make the playoffs again this year and you got to face them again. So
Yeah.
I know why they did it. They did it for salary cap reasons. That's the only reason I see this happening.
Yeah. And I know they were on the bottom list of the draft just with the Dolphins, but the Dolphins, I think, did really, really well in getting themselves out of that cap jail by restructuring all of these guys and then all of a sudden have several millions of dollars in cap space available to spend. So whatever they did in the front office, kudos to them. I'm going to give you a team that I think went there and did A-level drafting, and that was the Philadelphia Eagles, picking up these two safeties in the first couple rounds and just solidified the back end of their defense. Man, if these guys hit it off and can be a tandem, that could be a very scary backfield when it comes to the defensive backs. And hopefully for Philadelphia Eagles fans, even though they got rid of the tush push, they can actually do something and not cheat by 5, 6, 7 yards with the tush push every third down. But I do think that they did a very good job in drafting what they did and solidified some of their defense stuff. So their offense is a pretty good offense. Their defense had holes. I think they filled them very well. And so when I give grades, I feel like, what did you do and how'd you feel it?
Look at this face. There's not a chance in hell I will ever give Philadelphia credit for anything they do. I don't care what it is. They can drag me down the street attached to the back of a vehicle. And I will never give Philly credit for anything. Okay?
God, I
I
love it.
hate
I
I hate
love
the
it.
Eagles
I love
with an
it. I love
absolute
it.
passion. There's
Oh,
just
yeah.
there's no way you will ever hear me give Philly credit for anything that they do. I was
Yeah.
rooting, and I hate New England, but I was rooting for New England to beat Philadelphia in the Super Bowl when Philly won. That's how bad I hate Philadelphia. Like, anything that has to do with their sports teams, I can't stand them, period.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that tells you I don't care how well you think they're drafted. They choked last year. They play like crap down the stretch in the NFL season, and in the playoffs, they got bumped out in the first round. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Talent.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I don't care if you have a super team. Philly had a super team before, and they didn't even make the playoffs that year. Listen to me. It happens. The NFL is any given Sunday for a reason. Teams that
Right.
were sucky the year before will end up coming back to win the Super Bowl. It happens more often
All
than
the
not.
time.
You
All the
just have
time.
you just have anomalies. I should pronounce that wrong, but you have teams that are like Kansas City, who are true dynasties, because that's what Kansas City is.
Mhm.
You have New
Mhm.
England, who are true dynasties, that when are doing what they're doing. But more often than not, you have teams that were terrible the year before that come back to surprise everyone and make the
Yeah.
playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I mean, this is why I love sports and football is the hatred towards our rivals. I talk about it all the time. I hate New England. I hate Buffalo with a passion when it comes to the NFL. Y'all know if you've watched this show at all or you know me personally, you know my absolute disdain for the state that looks like a freaking mitten. Why? 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 Thank you, Harbaugh, for leaving. And the blemish of the last 3 years makes me angry. But we're coming back with a vengeance, and we're going to own them again for the next decade, like we always have. Yeah, I love sports. This is what I love about sports. And whether you're a football fan, baseball fan, basketball fan, and I mean, I know on this show we talk primarily, we're talking NFL, and we'll talk a little bit about the college as the college season kind of starts to roam around.
100%.
But anytime, man, we may throw in there a little bit of basketball. I mean, because we in the NBA playoffs right now. We are, and at some point in time, we're gonna get some guests on here, and we're gonna have that GOAT talk. We're gonna have the GOAT talk. I want to have the GOAT talk on this show, and I know it's NBA, and I got a few people in mind. And if you watch this show, you know who I'm talking to. Oh yeah, you know who I'm talking to. All y'all little Gen Zers out there thinking that your bearded wonder is the greatest of all time. I got a couple tissues for you, and we'll talk about that in another episode. So, if you want to come on this show and talk to us about the GOAT of the NBA, man, we could dedicate the entire hour, the entire 45 minutes on this debate, because I would hammer it home. Right? I'd hammer it home. So that's for another show. We're going to get there. If you want us to talk about the GOAT talk of the NBA, drop us a comment. We would love to hear it. But if you're watching this show, you know who I'm talking to. You know who I'm talking to. We'll just leave it at that. So, all right. So last segment of the night. I know we're going to kind of end a little earlier than we normally have, but we spent 2.5 hours talking about the draft. I know there's going to be more news coming out in the next couple of weeks for a lot of us to be able to talk about. So we're going to end the show like we always do with our Homer section, be a Homer section. And we've talked a lot about our teams, but we're going to give it next couple minutes just to talk a little bit about what we want to see, what we're hoping for. So, Francisco, I'm going to let you kind of start us off with the Homer section, and any last thoughts about your New York Giants or even your Cleveland Browns. I'll let you talk about them.
Listen, so as far as the New York Giants goes, I already told you they filled a lot of needs that they had for the season, except for quarterback. They beefed up their offensive line already in the offseason. Now, we're not people are forgetting that we still have undrafted free agents that they're going to get signed as well. And those guys make more money than the kids who get drafted in the late rounds because of the bonuses they get. So you're going to have some gems out there. I don't want people to sit back and think the draft is the end all be all, because it's not. Undrafted free agents is where we find superstars, because these are the kids that did not get drafted for some reason, get picked up and dominate a lot of the times in the NFL and become stars. So the Giants did everything they were supposed to do except for the quarterback position. My expectations for them is if Danny Dimes can stay healthy, they will be competitive. Okay. They have a great coach, you know, that motivates their players. They never quit on him last season, even with everything that was going on. I think they're going to be a solid team. Do I think they're going to be a playoff team? Absolutely not. My expectations for them is they're going to finish about 500, around there, or maybe below 500, because now there's just one extra game. So that's my expectations for them, depending on how they're looking, like how things are looking, how the squad starts to look mid-season. Then I might change my prediction. But for right now, Danny Dimes is the problem for that team right now. Everybody knows it. We got to see how he comes out like gangbusters. Now for the Browns, let me tell you something. They have a squad, okay? They have an absolute squad. They picked up Jerry Jeudy on the offseason. They just picked up Michael Hall Jr. As a defensive tackle from Ohio State. This kid, is a hometown kid. They're going to surprise a lot of people. They beefed up. They're beefing up their offensive line as well. Picked up some more defensive players and picked up another wide receiver in the draft. So my expectations for the Browns is the same as it was last year. Playoffs. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Okay. If you have a healthy quarterback, which you should this season, and they're protecting him like they should, there's no reason for them not to make the playoffs and make a run and not get embarrassed like they got embarrassed in Houston in that playoff game. So that's my take.
All right. So for the 305 for my Fins, this is a make or break it year. There is absolutely zero question. The fan base is on a teeter-totter, especially when it comes to Tua. They've been on a teeter-totter for years with him. I'm telling you, I've said it. I'm a fan of Tua, but this is a make or break it year. This is can you string together 2 good years? Can you stay healthy this year, Tua? Can you do some of that jujitsu and whatever, you keep doing it, whatever you're doing? It looks like you thinned down after you gained some weight last year. I don't know what you're doing, but make sure that you keep yourself healthy, because at the end of the day, it rises and falls on your shoulders. And if you can go out there and ball out like you did last year, then we can be a playoff contender. Now, last year we had a lot of injuries that hurt us late. We were driving down the road and we got a couple of flat tires right before the end of the race. And that hurts. That hurts momentum. I know next man up, but that hurts momentum. And that hurts the psyche when you feel like everything is clicking and then all of a sudden you lose 3-4 main guys that are out for the season. When you have season ending injuries for guys, it really sucks the wind out of your sails. And so let's get them back. I'm optimistic that Phillips and Chubb are coming back. They're coming back early. I'm optimistic that Waddle and Tyreek are going to do the same thing. It is very hard to guard Tyreek. I don't care who you are. You can get as much film as you want on him. And can Tua make the second read? Can Tua make that third read? Can they give him enough time to make the second and third read and not always throw to Tyreek on the slant or Tyreek on the deep route when he blows it off the line? So getting eliminated from the playoffs that first round hurt. I hope it stings. Fins, look yourself in the mirror. Fins fans, let's be optimistic. I know every year, if you talk to any Fins fan out there, this time of the year is the greatest time. It's our season, and then September, October hit, and we all just kind of flush the toilet. I don't want that to happen this year. I'm really optimistic that we're going to do some things. I think we've added some pieces to the puzzle, and we're going to see what happens. I think they've made some good moves, salary cap wise. Mike McDaniels is going to come back and do some great things. So love what I'm seeing. Let's keep it rolling and go from there. Well, that's it. That's what we got. shorter show this time, but that's okay. And we're gonna come back next week with some really good content of what's going on. As always, guys, we expect you to drop some comments to let us know how you want us to continue to talk on the show. If you guys want some more content in different areas, we'd love to drop some knowledge or just talk a little bit about what you guys want us to talk about. So appreciate you guys joining the show this week. As always, it's been an honor to be able to do this for you guys, our fans. Francisco, you got any closing comments for us before we wrap up the show?
No, just looking forward for the upcoming weeks. We got rookie minicamp coming up soon here in the next couple of weeks. We can get a good look at these rookies and see what they're looking like. So it's gonna be fun. There's gonna be a lot of talking heads, us included. But we're not the experts. We're just homers. We're just guys who enjoy talking about our teams and talking about NFL and college football as well. So the next time, a couple of weeks, it should be a good time.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks again for joining us on the Roaming Homer podcast. My name is Caleb. That's Francisco. As always, we love being a part of sharing some of our thoughts with you. As always, like, subscribe on YouTube. If you want the audio version, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And until next time, always be proud to be a Roaming Homer. We'll see you later.